Thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting.
Of course, thank you. We usually start this conversation with that one question that we think you are sick and tired of answering. So what would that potentially be?
I guess as a background, people ask me what I do.
Yeah.
I am not an architect. I am not an engineer. Mm-hmm. I'm not an urban planner. I am actually a finance person. Mm-hmm. And being a finance person, I tend to look at things in terms of returns,
okay,
in terms of profitability, time frame, affordability, things that an investor would look at. And so when I got into the real estate industry, I did not look at it in terms of, let's put up a building that will stand out, that will be the talk of the town.
Yeah.
Not really. What I did was I looked for opportunities. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I do. I look for opportunities that have not yet been seen by the bigger players. The first real estate product that we got into were university residences.
Yes.
And we've been doing that since the late 90s. So it's almost way over 20 years now.
But that has evolved in the last 20 years?
It has evolved. The basic ingredients are there.
Okay.
But the country has changed so much that we've ridden the wave. First is the demographic shift.
Okay.
You have a very large population of young people who are being educated because their parents have a lot more disposable income. So as you know, there are 10 million Filipinos outside the country. They're sending money home and sending their kids to school. And so 25 years ago, when I first saw these types of the situation, I said, well, people who come to Metro Manila for education, meaning for university, their university education, they tended to be on a very low budget, mm-hmm, where to stay.
Yeah.
So you would have what even today what you see are mostly dormitories.
Yeah.
12 people crammed in a
little space.
A little space. The restroom is outside. Maybe in US dollars, it'd be $20 to $30 a month. Yeah, that's their budget. And I said, well, the Philippines is getting richer. I had just come back from my studies abroad, and I saw how universities abroad had really nice facilities for their students. Mm-hmm. Especially, well, they were on campus and off campus. Residences. I would call them residences and not dormitories, because residences are really, one, maybe two students living in a unit with its own kitchen, its own living room, its own laundry. And so I said, why can't we do this back home in the Philippines? So that's what we did.
How has the story of the kitchen evolved over 20 years? Has that changed, or?
Students don't cook.
Yeah, so has that been constant 20 years ago also to now?
What I discovered, well, we put washing machines, a washing machine provision in the unit. It was early on. Mm-hmm. Said, well, the students will want to wash their clothes. Then we found out that only a third actually put washing machines. So I said, why is that? And it turns out that 1/3 of the residents, meaning they're 90% students, go home on weekends or go to a relative's house or a friend's house and they have their clothes washed.
Yeah.
And so they bring their laundry back on Monday. Okay. The other 1/3, because one of the commercial establishments I put downstairs was a laundromat. But it's a pick up and deliver laundromat, meaning it's not self-service. So they call or they text the store and someone picks up their laundry and brings it back.
Folding clothes is a hard job.
Well, they seem to they'd rather pay than fold the clothes themselves, right? So that's the other 1/3. So I was wondering about the last 1/3, if they actually wash their clothes because they have washing machines. And the last 1/3, they have nannies living with them.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have a maid living with them.
Yeah.
And they bring, and so what? And they're the ones who do the laundry and cook.
Yeah.
The other 2/3 don't cook.
Yeah.
They either bring food from their houses or they take out.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting how you try to do a Western setup and somehow the Philippine
We find a way to.
culture creeps in.
And has that been constant over the 20 years, or have you seen maybe the rise of the middle class as well, who've now considered this as an opportunity?
The middle class in the Philippines has really grown so much. In fact, I guess 25 years ago, there were very, very few.
Just to maybe come back, because a lot of parents buy this for their children, they kind of go to university and move on with their lives, right? What happens then? Does this become a leasing opportunity?
It's a very, very good question. What we've done is, we have buyers who will buy a unit for their children.
Yeah.
We have buyers who will get together with, cousins or siblings will get together and buy a unit for a group or for their children to use repeatedly. However, many of them end up, you think they would sell it afterwards, but not really, because we have many buyers who don't even have children.
Okay.
It's for pure investment.
Okay.
Because we as a developer, so going back to what we do, we retain a certain percentage of every building.
Okay.
Which is unique.
Okay. So I understand people paying a premium to save time, right? I think now any viable
our
person
premium.
understands.
The other thing is a lot of people come to us. We have a leasing office in all our buildings, which is unique because usually when
you walk into a building and say
a parent wants to rent a unit for their son or daughter, they end up walking in and then the security guard says,
here's a card, call this person.
Or points to a piece of cardboard with the list.
Yeah.
We actually have an office, we have coffee, we have a lounge, we have everything to make them feel welcome. And when they see our prices, we easily command a 30-40% premium over the lowest. And they come to us and say, you're more expensive than this building and that building, thinking that we'll get shocked.
Here's a promo.
And we always say, yes, and we welcome you to visit those buildings. So please go and check it out.
And feel comfortable leaving your children behind there.
The average length of time that they take is 30 minutes. And they're back.
To decide and come back.
They're back. They just see the other buildings and say, "There's no way my child is gonna live there."
The association use now, because your product is also investment focused, is an investor focused product, right?
If they lease out the unit, if you give your unit for lease, then the lessee usually pays for that.
Okay.
It's not that much because our units are not that large.
They're smaller units that
they range from we have buildings with 16 square meters that are smallest.
Yeah.
all the way up to 50, 60 square meters. The average is about 24.
Yeah.
24 square meters.
That's another interesting conversation around the size of the unit, right? When you're trying to build for a university student, how big is big enough?
The university student, what's important is not the size. It's location
Yeah.
and tech.
And the tech.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what's important. What's important is how good is your internet, how good is your cell site. Our model units have televisions. Guess what? Nobody watches.
Nobody watches televisions anymore.
They just use it to stick their phone, connect their phone to it. It's changed so much. So
Yeah.
the people who lease our units, I mean the students, what they care about is the location, meaning how close is it to the school, and how your facilities, especially your internet and your cell, your connectivity. Then the other things they look for, the gym, the pool, the study rooms, that's what they
Do they not
look
care
at
about
that.
who lives in their building? Because community living is becoming a conversation around the world.
They see, first of all, because of all these online platforms and chat rooms and social media, they already know before they get to university
Who's coming where?
where's the best place to live.
Okay.
So they already look for us.
Okay.
The average renter stays 3 to 4 years for us.
Okay. So they invariably get to know their neighbors and they get to know everybody, and it's already a very socially active.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what we do for university. The other thing, so going out of Metro Manila, we've really branched into other types of real estate products. We have hotels, we have condominiums for overseas Filipinos, we have resorts and townships. Everything that we see we can do outside of Metro Manila because of the growth of the country. So we've chosen key cities in the Philippines from San Fernando, Pampanga, Lipa, Batangas, Davao City down south, and maybe 4 or 5 other cities that we're targeting to again bring our products there. They're not for students, but they are for a market which we also saw, which are all these Filipinos abroad who go home. And
Yeah.
they go home, and the idea of the Filipino who would leave when they're in their 20s and never come back, and that's gone. What's happening is there's a brain gain. You
They're
have
all coming
Filipinos
back?
coming back
Yeah.
in their 40s and 50s from abroad and working here, and many of them move back to their provinces. They don't move back to Metro Manila, they move back to their provinces. And why is that? Because that's where they grew up. They're familiar with the language, their friends are there. However, they will not move back usually to the house that they grew up in.
They want something better. The
They
quality
are more
is better.
sophisticated, and they like looking at living in a condominium, because they most likely worked in a big city with that's the
Yeah.
way people live. So now we're bringing the condominium life to these people. And besides that, these people, these overseas Filipino returnees, are also looking for quality and something other than just a condominium. And that's why we're putting hotels there.
So this is even when they come to visit their family. It's not even when they're coming to like move back for
No,
good, or
The Filipinos now, they come home more often. They're not gone 20 years, 30 years. They're back yearly.
okay.
So that's why we have hotels.
Okay.
So we put up a complex with a hotel and then a condominium residence or maybe a sports club, whatever is needed in that area for these Filipinos.
So how would you advise somebody to pay premiums for something that they think is worth their quality of life? How do you calculate something like that?
Rather than just thinking of yourself, think of your kids. If it's good enough for your kids, then it's good enough for someone else's kids. So it's a good investment in terms of putting in your part of your monthly salary for this layaway plan so that your kids will have a place to stay when they go to university.
And then
Same
someone
time,
else's.
or somebody else's kids. And it's very affordable because the Filipino usually dreams of having some kind of rental income.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, that's a beautiful way to put it. You get a bite-sized experience and then you say, I want to invest and lock myself in.
Correct. And what's important to us is we have to be the first there.
Okay.
We cannot, meaning we look for opportunities that others still, are still testing the waters. But we say, look, enough people have told us outside the country that that's where they want to be, so we will be there. So wherever there's enough groundswell,
Yeah.
we're there.
So the first mover advantage, you think? Or?
First mover, yes. We're not as large as the others, and we take things, we choose.
Yeah.
It's like coffee. The difference in coffee is you can get all the beans from the branch and turn it into coffee. It will taste like coffee. But the person who really takes the time to choose the right beans and use that, you won't have as much coffee, but you'll have very good coffee.
That's beautifully put. Thank you so much for having
Thank
a conversation with us.